After my son's wedding, when the champagne had not yet evaporated, the host called me. "Sir, I found something. Come to my office. Don't tell your son. You have to see it first." I thought, is this a joke? But what he showed me changed everything. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The champagne toast was ending when I noticed Linda circling my former colleagues like a shark who'd caught a scent. I stood near the father's table, gripping my glass of ginger ale, watching her corner Gerald Mitchell from my old firm. Her laugh carried across the reception hall, too bright, too calculated. "So you worked with Ralph in estate law?" Her voice projected just enough for me to hear. "I've always been fascinated by how families protect generational wealth. Does Derek have access to the family trust, or does that come later?" Gerald's discomfort was visible even from 20 feet away. He mumbled something non-committal and excused himself toward the bar. Linda's smile never faltered as she turned, scanning for her next target. I set down my glass and moved toward the French doors leading to the garden. The venue was beautiful, all exposed brick and Edison lights, but suddenly the air felt thick. Outside, the April evening carried a breeze that loosened the knot in my chest. I pulled at my tie, letting my eyes adjust to the softer light. That's when I heard them. "Told you the old man's assets are exactly what we calculated." Linda's voice came from around the corner, near the catering entrance. The harsh whisper carried an edge I hadn't heard during the ceremony. Jennifer responded, but I only caught fragments. "Stick to the timeline we discussed. 1 year then." My feet had carried me 3 steps closer before Jennifer's head snapped up. Our eyes met across the narrow garden path. The transformation was instant. Her expression shifted from intense focus to radiant bride in less than a heartbeat. She practically floated toward me, arms extended. "Daddy Ralph, we were just talking about how beautiful the ceremony was. Mama was saying how generous you've been with everything." Her hug lasted a calculated moment too long. Her perfume, something expensive and cloying, filling my nostrils. Her hand lingered on my arm as she pulled back. "Isn't this the most perfect day?" Linda had already repositioned herself, all maternal warmth. "Ralph, Jennifer's right. You've given Derek and Jennifer such a wonderful start." I smiled. 35 years of courtroom experience taught me to smile when necessary. "Only the best for my son." Jennifer squeezed my arm once more before gliding back inside, Linda following like a shadow. I stood in the garden for another minute, replaying what I'd heard. The old man's assets, timeline, 1 year. Inside, the DJ had started the parent dances. I watched Derek take the floor with Jennifer, his face carrying the kind of joy I hadn't seen since his mother passed. Pure, unguarded happiness. He spun her, and her laugh rang out, genuine this time, or at least a better performance. 18 months. That's all it had been from their first date to this moment. Derek had introduced her at Christmas 2 years ago, proposed by Valentine's Day, married before spring ended. At the time, I'd attributed it to young love, to my son finally finding someone after years of focusing on his career. Now I wondered what I'd missed while being the supportive father instead of the cautious attorney. Later, while helping the coordinator pack wedding gifts into boxes, I found it, my late wife's wedding photo that Derek had displayed on the memory table. Claire smiled out from 1983, her hand in mine, both of us impossibly young. I held the frame, feeling the weight of being the only parent left, the only one standing between Derek and whatever I'd overheard in that garden. The reception wound down. I shook hands, accepted congratulations, hugged my son. Jennifer kissed my cheek as they left, whispering, "Thank you for welcoming me into the family, Daddy Ralph." The title felt wrong in her mouth, too familiar, too presumptuous. I drove home alone, the quiet of my Buckhead house amplifying every small sound. Wedding leftovers from the rehearsal dinner still sat on the kitchen counter. I'd meant to put them away that morning but ran out of time. The next morning arrived too early. I was loading suitcases into Derek's trunk by 9:30. My hands steady despite the churning in my gut. Hawaii for 10 days. Derek had splurged on a resort in Maui, putting it on the credit card I'd helped him get approved for. "Got everything?" I checked the back seat where their carry-on sat. "Thanks to you, Dad." Derek pulled me into a tight hug. "For everything, the venue, helping with costs, just everything." Jennifer appeared on the porch with Linda, both carrying final bags. Linda approached as Derek loaded them, her smile sharp. "Ralph, "You've been so wonderful through all this. We'll have plenty of time to discuss family investments when they return. After all, we're all family now." The way she said investments made it sound like a promise and a threat. I nodded, kept my expression neutral. "Safe travels." They pulled away 10 minutes later, Derek honking twice as they reached the corner. I stood in my driveway watching until the car disappeared, then walked slowly back inside. The house felt emptier than usual. In the kitchen, I picked up my phone. A text from Derek, sent from a red light. "Thanks for everything, Dad. Love you." I started typing a response. Deleted it. Started again. Deleted that too. Finally settled on, "Safe travels, son. Call when you land." What I didn't type? "Be careful. I think I heard something. Your wife might be planning something terrible." I've seen this pattern before. 35 years of family law taught me to recognize predators, the ones who circle wounded families, who see inheritance as opportunity, who measure love in asset valuations. But this is my son's wife. This is his happiness. I set the phone down and stared at the wedding leftovers, hearing Linda's voice in my head. Family investments. 1 year. The old man's assets. I pray I'm wrong. 3 days crawled past. I tried to focus on routine, reading case summaries from former colleagues who still consulted me, organizing my study, anything to occupy my mind. The unease from the wedding had settled into my bones like an old injury before a storm. Wednesday morning, I sat at my desk sorting through a stack of legal journals when my phone rang. Unknown local number. I let it ring twice before answering. "Mr. Coleman, this is Marcus Wilson. I did the videography for Derek's wedding." His voice carried tension, words coming slightly too fast. "Sir, I found something during editing. You need to see this in person. Please don't mention this to Derek yet. You should see it first." My attorney instincts engaged immediately. "When and where?" "My studio. I can send you the address." "How soon can you come?" "Give me 45 minutes. The drive to Midtown gave me time to construct scenarios, run through possibilities. Marcus wouldn't call unless it was serious. Videographers saw everything, the unguarded moments, the conversations people thought were private. Atlanta traffic was heavy on Peachtree, giving me too much time to think. Marcus's studio occupied the second floor of a converted warehouse. Small operation, professional setup. He met me at the door, a man in his early 40s with careful eyes and nervous hands. "Mr. Coleman, thank you for coming." He gestured toward his editing suite, a dimly lit room dominated by 3 monitors. "I need you to understand, I always review all footage before final editing. Quality control, making sure I got everything." The camera was still recording in the bridal preparation room when they thought it was off. "Show me." He clicked through files, found what he needed. The timestamp showed 40 minutes before the ceremony. Jennifer stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her veil. Linda entered the frame, closing the door behind her. "Did he sign a prenup?" Linda's voice came through clear and sharp. "Please tell me you got him to sign." Jennifer turned from the mirror. "No, Mama." The old man pushed hard for it, but Derek refused. He said he loved me and didn't need it. "Good." Linda's smile was predatory. 1 year of marriage, then file. Georgia law gives you half of everything acquired after marriage, plus you can claim his inheritance as marital property if it's commingled. My fingers drummed once on the armrest, the only outward sign of what was churning inside me. Marcus glanced at me, then back at the screen. Jennifer adjusted her dress. "The old man's house alone is worth $1.2 million. Derek already mentioned wanting to help us invest his inheritance. Once we have access, we move it to our accounts." "What about the old man himself?" Linda's question made my jaw tighten. "He's 63, healthy. He'll be around, but he doesn't have to know anything until we're ready. Derek trusts me completely." Marcus paused the video. "There's more. 2 other clips." He showed me planning discussions, timeline coordination, clinical assessments of my son's assets and my own. Jennifer and Linda spoke about Derek the way investors discuss portfolio acquisitions. I watched it all with the emotional control that came from decades of depositions and courtroom testimony. But Marcus saw something. Maybe the way my jaw set harder. Maybe the way I stopped blinking. "Mr. Coleman, He stopped, started again. "I've seen this kind of thing before in my work, but never this calculated. I had to show you." I couldn't send the wedding video knowing this was on the footage. "Marcus, I appreciate your integrity." My voice came out steady, professional. "I need copies of everything, full unedited footage. I'll need you to sign a confidentiality agreement. This is legal evidence now. How much do I owe you for your discretion?" "Sir, I'm not asking for. You're protecting my son? You're putting your professional reputation on the line. Name your price. We settled on a consulting fee that felt appropriate for the magnitude of what he'd revealed. He burned 3 copies of the complete footage onto USB drives, signed the agreement I drafted on my phone, and printed in his office. Every step documented, every base covered. Walking to my car in the parking garage, I finally allowed myself to feel it. Not the hot rage of impulse, but the cold, calculated anger of someone who'd seen this pattern destroy families before, who'd represented the victims, who'd watched predators walk away with assets earned by people they'd never loved. But this time, it was my son. I sat in my car, engine off, holding the USB drive. The parking garage stretched empty around me, concrete and shadows. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek with a photo of a beach, brilliant blue water and white sand. Paradise. Jennifer says hi. I stared at the message, then at the drive in my other hand. The two realities couldn't coexist, my son's happiness and this evidence of betrayal occupying the same moment in time. I typed back, "Enjoy every moment, son." What I didn't add, because everything is about to change. The drive home passed in a blur. My mind was already sorting through options, constructing strategy, who to call, what legal steps to take, how to protect Derek without destroying him in the process. I'd spent 35 years navigating family law, divorces, custody battles, estate disputes. I knew the system's weaknesses and strengths. I knew how predators operated, how they covered their tracks, how they positioned themselves to maximize damage. And now I knew exactly what Jennifer and Linda had planned. In my study, I locked the USB drives in my safe, one for backup, one for evidence, one for leverage. The lawyer in me was already building the case, cataloging facts, anticipating moves. But the father in me kept seeing Derek's face at the reception, that unguarded joy, that absolute trust. They'd chosen the wrong family to target, the wrong son to use, the wrong father to underestimate. I pulled out my laptop and started researching private investigators in Atlanta. It was time to find out exactly who Jennifer and Linda really were. The house was dark when I walked through the front door. I didn't bother with lights except the desk lamp in my study. The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket, like carrying a loaded weapon. I pulled it out, set it on the desk beside my computer, and sank into my leather chair. The clock on the wall read 8:15. Outside, the neighborhood settled into its evening rhythm. Distant traffic, someone's television through an open window. I inserted the drive and opened the files Marcus had organized. Wedding ceremony, reception, bridal preparation room. That last file was marked with a red flag in his system. I clicked it open and watched again and again and again. By midnight, my legal pad had filled with 3 pages of notes, timestamps, direct quotes, observations about body language and tone. The lawyer in me had taken over completely, building a case the way I'd done hundreds of times before. Jennifer's voice, "The old man's house alone is worth 1.2 million. Linda's response, "1 year of marriage, then file." I wrote it all down, every word, every implication. Dawn arrived without me noticing. Light crept through the study window, turning the room gray, then gold. I stood, my back protesting after hours in the chair, and walked to the window. The sunrise looked indifferent to what I'd learned. The world kept turning regardless of betrayal. At my bookshelf, I pulled down my old address book, brown leather, worn soft from decades of use. I flipped through pages, colleagues, clients, expert witnesses. There, Tracy Adams. I'd worked with her on half a dozen cases when I was still in practice. Fraud investigations, asset searches, background checks on witnesses trying to hide criminal histories. If anyone could dig up the truth about Jennifer and Linda, Tracy could. Friday morning, I called her at 8 sharp. "Tracy, it's Ralph Coleman. I need your services again. Complete background on 2 individuals, Jennifer Johnson Coleman and her mother Linda Johnson. Everything, finances, employment history, past relationships, credit reports, criminal records, if any. This is personal. How soon can you start?" Her voice came through clear and professional. "Ralph, good to hear from you. Personal cases are always the toughest. I can start immediately. My rate is $150 an hour plus expenses. For a comprehensive background, figure 3 to 5 days for preliminary findings. Should I assume discretion is critical?" "Absolutely critical." "Understood. Send me what you have." We arranged a meeting downtown, at a neutral location, her office building lobby, where I could hand her a sealed envelope with everything I knew, full names, dates of birth, last known addresses, social security numbers I'd pulled from Derek's wedding paperwork, plus a retainer check that would keep her working without questions. Saturday afternoon, I met Belinda Stewart at a coffee shop in Buckhead. She arrived precisely on time, as always, her silver hair cut short and professional, her eyes missing nothing. We ordered coffee and claimed a corner table away from the lunch crowd. "You sounded serious on the phone," she said, stirring cream into her cup. "Hypothetically," I kept my voice low, "what if someone entered a marriage with fraudulent intent from the beginning? Not adultery afterward, but premeditated deception about their motivations for the marriage itself?" Belinda set down her spoon, studying my face. "In Georgia, that's fraud in the inducement. If you can prove the marriage was entered into based on deliberate misrepresentation of material facts, you can petition for annulment, not divorce. The difference matters. Annulment means the marriage never legally existed. But Ralph, the burden of proof is substantial. You need concrete evidence of intent before the marriage, not just suspicions." She pulled a pen from her bag and sketched concepts on a napkin. Timeframes, requirements, legal precedents. "How concrete?" I asked. "Recorded admissions, documentary evidence of planning, multiple witnesses, financial records showing pattern of behavior. The judge needs to see clear, intentional fraud, not just regret or changed feelings." I nodded, absorbing every word. "Ralph," she leaned across the table, "this isn't hypothetical, is it? Not yet ready to discuss specifics." "Fair enough, but be careful. These cases can destroy families even when you win." "I know," I thought but didn't say. "I have that evidence, video proof of their planning. But how do I show Derek without breaking him? He's in paradise right now, posting beach photos, and I'm about to destroy his world." That evening, back in my study, I spread everything across my desk: the USB drive, my notes, Belinda's napkin with its legal framework, my calendar showing the days until Derek's return. 12 days left. My phone buzzed with a notification. Derek's Instagram, a sunset photo, Jennifer beside him in a sundress, both of them glowing with happiness. The caption read, "Paradise with my beautiful wife." I picked up my phone to call Tracy for a status update, then set it down. Too soon. She'd said 3 to 5 days. Pushing wouldn't make the investigation move faster. I looked at my calendar again, counting squares. 12 days to gather everything needed. 12 days to build an airtight case. 12 days before I had to face my son with proof that his marriage was a calculated con. The USB drive caught the desk lamp's light, gleaming like a promise and a threat. I opened my laptop and started a new document. Case notes, Johnson investigation. If I was going to do this, I'd do it right. Every detail documented, every piece of evidence catalogued, every step justified, because when the time came, I'd need to be certain, not just for the courts, for Derek. Sunday morning arrived with my phone buzzing on the nightstand. I'd actually slept, surprisingly, 4 hours of exhausted unconsciousness. The notification showed an email from Tracy. Preliminary findings, Johnson investigation. I grabbed my robe and went downstairs, coffee brewing on automatic timer. At the kitchen counter, laptop open, I entered the decryption password Tracy had provided. The report loaded, 15 pages, attachments with scanned documents, bank statements, interview transcripts. I scrolled slowly, reading every word. Linda Johnson, age 58, carried $85,127 in unsecured debt across 7 credit cards. Subject lost primary residence to foreclosure in 2011. Current employment, Palmer Realty Associates. Per confidential source at firm, Johnson had a reputation for cutting corners and an obsession with wealthy clients. Multiple co-workers described her as financially desperate. The motive crystallized. Linda wasn't just greedy, she was drowning. And Derek was her life raft. I kept reading. Jennifer Johnson Coleman, age 32. 2 significant relationships prior to current marriage. Michael Torres, 2019 to 2020, ended when she learned his startup was failing. Bradley Simmons, 2021 to 2022, ended 3 weeks after meeting his parents, who turned out to be middle-class teachers, not the investors Jennifer had assumed. Simmons was quoted in Tracy's interview notes. "She asked more questions about my parents' assets than about me, a pattern, not an isolated incident. Jennifer had done this before, was doing it now, would do it again. Then I reached page 12. March 2025. Linda Johnson consulted attorney Patricia Wong at Divorce Solutions LLC. Per office records obtained through standard investigative channels. Consultation topic: rights to spouses' inheritance from parents during divorce proceedings in Georgia. I stopped scrolling, stared at the date. March, 3 months before the wedding. They'd planned the divorce before they'd even sent the invitations. I printed the entire report, organized it with colored tabs: finances, relationships, legal consultations, character references. My study filled with paper, with evidence, with the systematic destruction of my son's happiness. Sunday passed in a fog of documentation and strategy. I barely ate. Monday afternoon, my phone rang. Derek's number. I took a breath, forced warmth into my voice. "Hey, son. Dad, you should see this place. We went snorkeling this morning. Jennifer spotted a sea turtle. She's right here, wants to say hi." Shuffling sounds. Then Jennifer's voice, bright and false. "Daddy Ralph, we're having the most amazing time. Listen, Derek mentioned you have quite an investment portfolio. After we get back, we'd love to sit down and talk about some financial planning. You know, now that we're family, it makes sense to discuss these things. Maybe you could give us some guidance?" My fingers tightened on the phone. Tracy's report lay open on my desk. Linda's consultation about inheritance rights during divorce. And here was Jennifer, not even back from the honeymoon, already making her move. "That sounds fine, Jennifer. We'll find time after you're settled back home. Enjoy the rest of your trip. You're the best." Here's Derek again. My son's voice returned, happy and oblivious. We talked for another 5 minutes about snorkeling, restaurants, the hotel. I made appropriate sounds, asked appropriate questions, all while staring at the evidence spread across my desk. When the call ended, I set the phone down carefully, picked up my calendar, counted days, 10 days until they returned. Now that we're family, Jennifer couldn't even wait 2 weeks. The mask was already slipping, her greed overriding caution. They were already circling, already moving to the next phase of their plan. I opened a new document on my computer and typed a heading: Protection Strategy. Below it, I began listing steps. First, secure assets. Immediately. Second, consult Belinda. Full disclosure, annulment preparation. Third, document everything. Establish timeline of fraud. I paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard, then typed a fourth item. Prepare Derek. This will break his heart. That was the piece I couldn't strategize around. No legal training prepared you for telling your son that his wife married him for money, that her love was theater, that every kiss and promise was calculated fraud. I'd seen this pattern before. Watched it destroy families, watched decent people shattered by betrayal. But those were clients, cases, files I could close at the end of the day. This was my son. I closed the laptop. Tomorrow I'd call Belinda with the full story. Tomorrow the legal machinery would begin turning. Tomorrow I'd start the process of dismantling Jennifer and Linda's plan piece by careful piece. But tonight I just sat in my study, surrounded by evidence of betrayal, listening to the house settle around me. 10 days. Everything had to be ready in 10 days. Tuesday morning traffic into downtown Atlanta gave me time to rehearse. The briefcase on my passenger seat contained everything: USB drive, Tracy's complete report, my handwritten notes. No more hypotheticals with Belinda. Today she'd see it all. I parked in the underground garage of her office building and took the elevator to the 15th floor. Her receptionist smiled and directed me to the conference room. Belinda was already there, coffee waiting. "Ralph," she closed the door behind us. "You sounded urgent on the phone." I set the briefcase on the polished table, clicked it open. No hypotheticals this time. This is my son's marriage. I connected the USB drive to her laptop, then slid Tracy's printed report across to her. The video loaded. I pressed play. Belinda adjusted her reading glasses and watched. Her expression remained neutral through the first clip, professional and assessing. By the third clip, Linda discussing the timeline, Jennifer calculating inheritance values. Her jaw had tightened. When the footage ended, she sat back. "Ralph, this is textbook fraud in the inducement. They discussed divorce terms before the marriage even happened. Georgia courts take this seriously. Combined with Tracy's findings about the ex-boyfriends and Linda's divorce consultation, we can petition for annulment. But understand, this will get ugly. They'll fight hard." "I know. I've seen dozens of these cases from the other side. The difference is, this time it's my son. What's our timeline for filing?" She pulled out a legal pad, started sketching framework. "We don't file until Derek knows everything and agrees. If we move without his consent, He'll resent you forever and possibly refuse to cooperate. The evidence won't matter if the plaintiff won't testify. We need him on board, which means he needs to see what you've seen. For the next 3 hours, we built strategy, burden of proof requirements, potential counterattacks, discovery processes. I took notes, my legal training meshing with her current practice expertise. By noon, we had a comprehensive plan. One more thing, Belinda said as I packed up. Protect your assets now, before they know what's coming. That afternoon, I sat in my estate attorney's office signing documents. New will, irrevocable trust for future grandchildren, currently non-existent, but that didn't matter. The trust would hold my primary assets under terms that couldn't be touched by divorce proceedings or inheritance claims from spouses. Mr. Coleman, this trust structure is ironclad. Once finalized, those assets cannot be accessed except under the specific terms you've outlined. Are you certain about making it irrevocable? I signed another page with deliberate strokes. Absolutely certain. I'm protecting my son's future, even if he doesn't understand why yet. The paperwork would take days to finalize, but the process had started. I also changed access protocols for my Buckhead home. Any additional key copies now required my written authorization. Wednesday morning, Tracy arrived at my house with her final report. I led her to my study where my case file had expanded across the entire desk. She added her folder to the stack, pointing with her pen. "Ralph, look at this. Johnston Family Investments, registered in Linda's name 1 month before the wedding. No business activity, no clients, no revenue. Just an empty corporate structure. You know what this looks like. A vehicle for hiding assets during a divorce. They were setting up the infrastructure before Derek even said, 'I do.' How much more premeditation do we need?" She turned another page. "There's more. Jennifer lied to Derek about her previous employment. She told him she left her last job for better opportunities. Truth? She was fired for unethical conduct involving attempted manipulation of corporate funds. I have the HR documentation. Every new piece of evidence felt like another nail. The case was becoming bulletproof. That evening, I stood at my study window, watching the sunset turn Atlanta's skyline orange and purple. Behind me, the desk was covered with evidence, video, investigation reports, legal strategies, asset protection documents. Every document I sign, every legal barrier I construct, feels like building a fortress. But the real battle isn't in courtrooms, it's in Derek's heart. How do I show him the truth without destroying him? I turned back to my desk and opened a new legal pad. At the top, I wrote, "Derek, preparation strategy." Beneath it, I numbered my approach. 1. Emotional readiness, wait for right moment. 2. Private setting, no witnesses to his pain. 3. Show evidence sequentially. Video last 4. Let him process. Don't push decisions. My phone vibrated. Text from Derek. "Home tomorrow evening. Can't wait to see you. Jennifer wants to do dinner at your place Thursday. That work?" I stared at the message. Tomorrow. They were coming back a day early. 7 days had become 1 day. I typed back, "Tomorrow works. I'll cook." 6 p.m. The response came immediately. Thumbs up emoji. I set down my phone and looked at the document I'd just drafted. My careful timeline had collapsed. Tomorrow night, everything changes. But maybe that was better. Less time for doubt. Less time for second guessing. I picked up my pen and added one more item to my list. 5. Stay calm. Stick to facts. Remember, this is about protecting him. The evening settled around me, quiet and heavy with anticipation. Thursday afternoon, I stood at my kitchen stove, the cast iron skillet hissing as I laid catfish fillets in hot oil. The familiar rhythm of cooking grounded me. Flour, spice blend, careful heat control. These were Derek's childhood favorites, the dishes his mother used to make. Fried catfish with my special seasoning, green beans with smoked ham hocks, buttermilk cornbread baking in the oven, collard greens simmering with a ham bone. Food as memory, as connection, as reminder of who we were before Jennifer. I set the dining table carefully. Good dishes, cloth napkins, everything proper and welcoming. In my study, the post-nuptial agreement documents waited in a leather folder. The doorbell rang at 6. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked to the door. Derek stood there, tanned and grinning, pulling me into a tight embrace. Behind him, Jennifer's smile was bright and practiced. She hugged me, her perfume overwhelming, the embrace lasting a calculated moment too long. "Daddy Ralph, the house smells amazing. Derek wasn't kidding about your cooking." We moved to the living room. Derek talked about Hawaii, the snorkeling, the resort, the beaches. I made appropriate responses. asked questions, watched Jennifer's eyes catalogue details of my home, the artwork, the furniture, the visible markers of accumulated wealth. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. Linda, wearing what looked like her best dress, carrying a bottle of wine like an offering. "Jennifer insisted I come," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Family dinner?" Of course Jennifer had. Numbers, strategy, united front. We moved to the dining room. I served plates family style, passing dishes around. The conversation was surface pleasant, honeymoon stories, weather, inconsequential chatter. But I watched Jennifer's micro-expressions, Linda's too careful politeness, Derek's genuine happiness. We were halfway through the meal when Jennifer made her move. "Daddy Ralph, this meal is incredible. You know, Derek mentioned you've built quite an impressive investment portfolio over your career. We were hoping you might share some wisdom about financial planning. Now that we're family, it would be wonderful to understand how you've managed everything so successfully." Her tone was light, conversational, but I recognized the predator's patience. She expected me to discuss my portfolio, my estate plans, how Derek would inherit. She was positioning herself for access. I set down my fork carefully, dabbed my mouth with the cloth napkin. "I'm glad you brought that up, Jennifer. I do want to discuss financial planning, specifically protecting both of you. Derek, you'll inherit from me eventually, and I want to make sure that inheritance is protected for you. That's why I've prepared this." I stood, excused myself briefly, returned with the leather folder. I placed it on the table between the dinner plates. "Post-nuptial agreement documents. I know we missed the prenup timing, but Georgia allows post-nuptial agreements. This ensures your inheritance, Derek, is protected as separate property." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Derek's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Dad, what is this? A postnup? We just got married. Jennifer and I trust each other. Why would we need this?" Jennifer's face had gone pale, just for a second. Then she recovered, forcing her smile back into place. "Derek, it's okay. Your father is being prudent. Of course we'll review this. It's actually quite thoughtful to think about protecting family assets. We should absolutely have our attorney look it over. These things are complex." But I'd seen it. The panic in her eyes, the mask slipping before she caught it. Linda couldn't maintain the facade as well. "I have to say, Mr. Coleman, this feels somewhat insulting. Jennifer and Derek are newlyweds. This kind of thing suggests you don't trust my daughter's intentions. We're family now. Shouldn't there be some basic trust?" I met her gaze steadily. "Mrs. Johnson, I practiced family law for 35 years. I've seen how complicated things become when assets aren't properly protected. This isn't about trust. It's about responsibility. Love is love, but business is business. I'm sure you understand the difference." Linda's jaw tightened. Jennifer touched Derek's arm, her voice carefully controlled. "We'll definitely consult with an attorney about this. These documents need proper legal review. We'll get back to you, Daddy Ralph." The Daddy Ralph sounded strained now, forced. Derek looked between us, confused and uncomfortable. "Can we just finish dinner? This is supposed to be a celebration." We did, but the warmth had evaporated. Conversation became stilted. Jennifer and Linda exchanged glances I wasn't supposed to catch. Derek tried to salvage the evening with cheerful chatter that nobody quite matched. By 8:30, they were making excuses to leave. In the foyer, Derek pulled me aside while Jennifer and Linda waited by the door. His voice was low, troubled. "Dad, can we talk tomorrow? Just us? I don't understand why you're doing this. Come by for coffee, 10 a.m., just you." He nodded, embraced me quickly, and left. Linda's car followed his out of the driveway. I locked the door and leaned against it, watching their tail lights disappear down the street. My phone was still in my pocket, voice memo app still recording. I'd activated it before they arrived, every word documented. That night I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Jennifer had 12 hours to work on Derek before our morning meeting. 12 hours to paint me as paranoid, controlling, insulting. 12 hours to turn my son against me. The real battle was just beginning. Friday morning arrived with my phone ringing. I was already at my desk, coffee grown cold beside the case files. Derek's name lit up the screen. I took a long breath before answering. "Dad, we need to talk." His voice carried a strained quality, defensive in a way that sounded rehearsed. "Jennifer barely slept last night. She's really hurt by what happened at dinner. Her mother thinks you're suggesting Jennifer is some kind of, I don't know, fortune hunter or something. That post-nup made it seem like you think she's only with me for money. It's insulting. I recognized the pattern immediately. The words were Jennifer's, delivered through my son's mouth. Son, listen to me. I'm trying to protect you, not insult anyone. I've seen what happens when estates aren't properly protected. This is standard legal practice. It's not personal. I'm 35 years old, Dad. I'm not a child anymore. Jennifer and I love each other. We don't need your protection. If it means questioning her character, I can make my own decisions about my marriage. The call ended shortly after. I sat staring at my phone, hearing Jennifer's manipulation in every syllable Derek had spoken. Saturday brought worse news. My phone rang again around 11. This time, Derek's voice was more formal, careful. I could practically hear Jennifer coaching nearby. Dad, Jennifer and I have discussed it. We think it's best if we take some space from you until you're willing to apologize and withdraw that agreement. We need to focus on our marriage without this kind of negativity. When you're ready to trust Jennifer and respect our relationship, we can talk. I stood at my study window, gripping the phone, watching my reflection in the glass. My voice stayed calm through sheer will. Derek, please think about this carefully. I love you. Everything I do is to protect you. Don't let anyone isolate you from family. You're isolating yourself, Dad. This is your choice. The line went dead. The trap was closing. Jennifer and Linda were actively working to cut off my access to Derek. Once the isolation was complete, showing him evidence would be impossible. He wouldn't even take my calls. I immediately dialed Belinda, putting her on speaker while I paced my study. Belinda, they're moving faster than we anticipated. Derek just told me they're cutting contact until I apologize. They're isolating him. If I lose access now, I can't show him the evidence. What are my options? Her response was measured but urgent. Ralph, this is textbook manipulation. They know you have something, even if they don't know what. They're preemptively poisoning Derek against anything you might tell him. You need to reach him soon, before the isolation tactics fully take hold. Once they've completely turned him, evidence won't matter. He won't even look at it. How much time do we have? Days, maybe less. That evening, my phone rang again. Tracy. Ralph, I followed Linda today. She met with an attorney named Patricia Hammond at Divorce Solutions. I got confirmation from my source at the firm. Hammond specializes in high-asset divorces, specifically maximizing spousal shares. Linda was there for 2 hours. They're not waiting, Ralph. They're planning the exit strategy now. I sat down heavily, pulling a legal pad toward me to take notes as she continued with details. Meeting location, duration, the attorney's specialization in asset extraction. They weren't just planning anymore. They were actively preparing. 1 year. They'd already set the clock. 12 months from the wedding, Jennifer files for divorce. Derek loses half of everything, plus whatever they've manipulated him into investing with them by then. And by the time he realizes what happened, he'll be broken. Not just financially, emotionally. Late that night, I couldn't sleep. I went to my dining room and spread everything across the table. The USB drive, Tracy's reports, both preliminary and final. The LLC documents showing Johnston family investments with no actual business. The statements from Jennifer's ex-boyfriends. Linda's consultation with the divorce attorney 3 months before the wedding. I photographed the entire layout with my phone, creating a visual timeline of the conspiracy. Documentation of documentation. Then I returned to my study and picked up my phone, typed a message to Derek. Son, please, one conversation, just you and me. 1 hour, the message showed delivered, then read, no response. I waited 15 minutes, then typed another. I've never asked you for much. I'm asking now. Come tomorrow morning, alone. If after you see what I have to show you, you still want to walk away, I won't interfere again. I hovered over send, then pressed it, delivered, read. The 3 typing dots appeared, then disappeared. I stared at the screen. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Derek's response. 10 a.m. I'll come, but this better be important. I set down the phone and exhaled slowly. Tomorrow I'd have to break my son's heart to save him. I'd been awake since 5 a.m., arranging my study like a courtroom. The laptop positioned precisely on the desk. USB drive inserted and ready. Tracy's complete investigation report in a manila folder. The LLC documents paper-clipped together. Each piece of evidence staged in the order I'd reveal it, like exhibits in a trial. The doorbell rang at exactly 10 a.m. I opened it to find Derek standing stiffly on the porch, his car still running in the driveway, as if he planned a quick escape. His arms were crossed, jaw tight, movements sharp. I stepped aside wordlessly, gesturing him in. In the study, I pulled out the chair across from my desk. He sat. I took my own chair and turn the laptop to face him. All right, Dad, I'm here, but Jennifer thinks this is just you trying to manipulate me into turning against her. She didn't want me to come, so whatever this is, make it fast. Just watch. I pressed play. Dad, I'm not sitting here watching our wedding video so you can point out things you don't like about. Jennifer's voice from the laptop cut him off. No, Mama. The old man pushed for a prenup, but Derek refused. He trusts me completely. 1 year of marriage, then we file. Georgia law is clear. I get half of everything acquired after marriage. Plus, we can claim his inheritance if it's commingled. Derek froze. His face went pale. Stop it. Stop the video. What? Where did you get this? This is... He couldn't finish the sentence. The videographer found it during editing. The camera was still recording in the bridal room. They thought they were alone. I let the video continue. Linda's voice joined in, discussing the prenup Derek had refused to sign, the timeline, the calculated nature of every choice Jennifer had made. Derek watched. Then, without a word, he reached over and moved the cursor back to the beginning. Watched again. His hands had started trembling. After the third viewing, he whispered, "There has to be an explanation. Maybe it's taken out of context. Maybe." But his voice lacked conviction. The evidence was too clear. I slid Tracy's investigation report across the desk. Here's the rest. Tracy Adams investigated them. Linda has $85,000 in credit card debt. Jennifer's had 2 relationships before you. Both ended when she realized the men weren't wealthy. This ex-boyfriend states she kept asking about his parents' financial situation. And this, I pushed over the LLC documents. Linda created this company 1 month before your wedding. There's no business. It's a shell for hiding assets during a divorce. Derek read slowly, his fingers tracing lines of text. I watched his face, confusion giving way to horror, horror giving way to devastation. The divorce consultation 3 months before our wedding. She was planning to divorce me before we even got married. Yes, son, I'm sorry. I wish I was wrong. Derek suddenly stood. The chair scraped harshly against the floor. Without a word, he walked out of the study. I heard the bathroom door close, then the muffled sounds of his anguish, the physical manifestation of a heart breaking. I stayed seated. 35 years of fatherhood, and this was the hardest moment. Watching his son's world shatter, even though I was the one who had to break it. I stared at the paused video frame showing Jennifer and Linda in the bridal room, listening to the sounds of grief through the closed door until silence returned. 10 minutes passed, maybe 15. When Derek returned, his eyes were red-rimmed, but something in his expression had changed. The defensive anger was gone, replaced by cold determination. He sat back down, picked up Tracy's report, read it again with the focus of someone seeing clearly for the first time. Finally he spoke. I trusted her. I loved her. I thought... He paused, then his voice hardened. What do I do? The question wasn't born of weakness. It was strategic. We protect you, legally and financially. Belinda can file for annulment. The marriage can be voided as fraudulent from inception. Your assets stay protected. But Derek, you have to decide. I can't make this choice for you. Tell me the steps. All of them. I want her to get nothing. I leaned forward. First, we document everything. Then tomorrow, we meet with Belinda. She'll need your statement, your authorization to file. You'll need to act normal around Jennifer until the papers are served. Can you do that? His jaw set. I've been acting for her benefit since we met, apparently. One more performance won't matter. We spent the next 30 minutes going through details, timeline, legal strategy, what he should and shouldn't say to Jennifer, how to maintain normalcy while we prepared the annulment petition. Finally, Derek stood to leave. He paused at the study door, turned back. I need to go home. Face her. Pretend everything's normal until the papers are ready. How long? I consulted my phone calendar. Belinda said she can have annulment papers ready by Tuesday. We'll need your signature, then they're served Wednesday. Tuesday then, I'll be here. At the front door, he stopped again. Dad? Yes, son. Thank you for not giving up on me. I put a hand on his shoulder. Never. I watched him drive away. The car no longer running in escape mode, but pulling out deliberately, purposefully. Inside, I picked up my phone and texted Belinda. He knows everything. He's ready. Prepare the annulment petition. We left my house together in the afternoon. walking to my car in silence. Derek's jaw was set with the kind of determination I recognized from my own reflection in harder moments. I drove us through Sunday afternoon Atlanta traffic toward Belinda's downtown office. Derek stared out the passenger window, watching the city pass. Neither of us felt the need to fill the silence with words. Belinda met us in her conference room, her reading glasses already perched on her nose, legal pad filled with notes from my earlier calls. Derek, she shook his hand firmly. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Let's just get to it. We sat across from her desk. She arranged documents in front of us with practiced efficiency. Derek, I need you to understand exactly what annulment means. We're not dissolving a marriage. We're arguing it was never valid because it was induced by fraud. The burden of proof is higher than divorce, but if successful, it's as if the marriage never legally existed. Jennifer gets nothing, no alimony, no property division, nothing, but she will fight this hard. Derek didn't hesitate. I don't care how hard it is. I want it annulled. I want it erased from existence. She married me to rob me. I won't let that marriage have any legal validity. Make it disappear. Belinda nodded, making notes. Then here's how this works. You go home tonight. Act completely normal. Tomorrow morning, I file the petition. A courier serves her the papers around 9 a.m. By the time she receives them, all your financial protections will already be in place. She'll have no access to contest or interfere. Surprise is our weapon. I leaned forward. What's our weakest point? Where will they attack? They'll claim the video violates privacy laws, that the investigation was invasive. But Georgia is a one-party consent state for recordings. The videographer owns that footage and voluntarily provided it. And everything Tracy found is from public records or willing witnesses. We're solid. The real question is whether Derek can maintain composure until the papers are served. Derek's voice was quiet but certain. I've been performing for Jennifer since we met, apparently. One more night won't break me. For the next hour, we worked through documents. Belinda slid papers across the table. Authorization for annulment filing, revocation of Jennifer's banking access, statement of fraud for court record, agreement to testify if needed. Derek took the pen she offered and signed each one. His signature was steady, deliberate. I watched the transformation continue. My son taking control, claiming his agency. I signed my own documents. This finalizes the trust. My assets are now protected in an irrevocable structure. Even if they somehow come after me, there's nothing accessible. Derek, you're the sole beneficiary through specific terms they can't touch. By 4:30, we were done. In Belinda's parking garage, Derek declined my offer to follow him home. It'll look more normal if I arrive alone. I watched him drive away, then headed home myself. That evening, I sat in my study with my phone on the desk, waiting. Around 9, Derek's text arrived. I'm okay. See you tomorrow. I read it 3 times before responding. Proud of you. An hour later, another message. Strange. I'm lying in bed next to someone I thought I knew. Tomorrow she'll know I'm not who she thought either. Good night, Dad. I carried my phone to the back terrace. The Atlanta skyline glittered against the darkening sky. My bourbon sat untouched on the table beside me. Belinda had texted earlier. Documents ready for filing. Courier scheduled for 9 a.m. service. Everything in place. I'd responded simply, thank you. Tomorrow the final act would begin. Jennifer would wake up believing she'd navigated past the post-nup obstacle, believing she'd successfully isolated Derek from my influence, believing her plan remained intact. By 9:15 tomorrow morning, her world would shatter. I picked up my bourbon, finally took a sip. The burn felt appropriate, cleansing and sharp. Morning would come too quickly, and not quickly enough. Monday morning arrived in darkness. Derek left their apartment at 6:30 before Jennifer woke. He dressed silently in the bathroom, slipped out without disturbing her peaceful sleep, the last morning of her scheme. From his office, he texted me, I'm out. It begins. At 9:04, my phone buzzed. Belinda, served. I imagined the scene. Jennifer in her robe, answering the door casually, signing for the envelope without concern. Then reading the first page. Petition for annulment of marriage. Fraud in the inducement. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Linda's number. You poisoned my daughter's marriage. You turned Derek against her with your lies and manipulation. We won't accept this. We'll fight you in court. We'll expose how you interfered in their relationship. My response was ice cold. Mrs. Johnson, I should inform you that all my calls are recorded. What you're doing right now constitutes harassment, and witness intimidation. If you continue, I'll be forced to add those charges to the civil fraud suit we're preparing against you and your daughter. I suggest you consult with your attorney before making any further contact. Goodbye." The line went dead. According to Tracy's later report, Jennifer and Linda found an attorney willing to see them that same morning. The attorney reviewed the petition and delivered brutal reality. With video evidence of them discussing divorce plans before the marriage, Jennifer's position was legally indefensible. The attorney's advice was simple: settle quietly, sign whatever NDA was offered, and pray Derek didn't pursue damages. That evening, Derek arrived at the apartment with Officer Martinez following at a professional distance. Belinda had advised the civil standby, standard procedure for contentious situations. I wasn't there, but Derek told me later. Jennifer tried everything, crying, pleading, claiming she could explain. Derek moved through the apartment methodically, clothes folded into his suitcase, books packed into boxes, personal items collected. Officer Martinez observed impassively from the doorway, while Jennifer followed Derek from room to room. "Derek, please, just talk to me. This is all a misunderstanding. That video, it was taken out of context. My mother and I were joking, just venting stress before the wedding. You know me. You know I love you. Please don't do this. We can work through this." Derek kept packing. At the door, she grabbed his arm. "But I'm your wife. We made vows." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "No, according to the court petition, you were never my wife. The marriage was fraudulent from inception. It never existed, legally or otherwise." He walked out. The door closed. It was over. The following week passed with legal efficiency. The court granted the annulment. The evidence was too overwhelming to contest. Legally, the marriage had never existed. To avoid the threatened civil lawsuit, Jennifer and Linda signed a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement and release of all claims. They got nothing. 1 week after the papers were served, Derek and I sat on my back terrace. Evening was settling over Atlanta, the skyline beginning to glow with lights. We both held coffee mugs, neither speaking immediately. The silence was comfortable, healing. Finally, Derek spoke. "I keep thinking I should feel something more. Anger maybe, or grief. But mostly I just feel tired and grateful you didn't let me walk into the trap blind. Grief comes in its own time. Right now, you're processing survival. That's enough. You'll heal, and you'll be wiser for it, though I wish you'd never needed this particular lesson." He nodded, staring at his coffee. "Thank you, Dad, for everything, for not giving up, for protecting me even when I didn't want to be protected." I reached over and squeezed his shoulder once, firmly. "That's what fathers do. We protect our children, even when they're grown, even when it's hard, always." We returned to watching the skyline. The evening sounds of Atlanta surrounded us. Distant traffic, neighbors' conversations, the city's constant rhythm, life continuing its ordinary patterns. Justice had been served, not through revenge or destruction, but through truth, and the legal system doing what it was designed to do. Jennifer and Linda had schemed to rob my son, and instead they'd lost everything: their plan, their scheme, their credibility. Derek would heal. It would take time, but he was strong, stronger than he'd known. And I'd done what I set out to do 2 weeks ago when I first heard those fragments of conversation in the wedding venue garden. I'd protected my son. The bourbon I'd left untouched Sunday night sat on the terrace table now, nearly empty. I'd earned it. We both had. Derek set down his coffee mug. "What happens now?" "Now? You live your life. Wiser, more careful, but not broken. You learn from this. You move forward." "And you?" I smiled. "I go back to retirement. Boring legal consulting, maybe some fishing, though I have to say, using my skills one last time felt satisfying." He laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from him in 2 weeks. It was a good sound. We sat together as darkness completed its arrival. Two men who'd faced a calculated threat and emerged intact. The bond between father and son, tested and proven unbreakable. In the distance, Atlanta continued its evening rhythm. Life went on, and we went on with it, scarred but whole, damaged but not defeated. Justice, I thought, sometimes looks like this. Quiet, simple, two people on a terrace, drinking coffee, watching the world turn. It was enough. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.